Alright, so the social issue I decided to talk about today was, are, people today, are they being offended too easily, or are people just too offensive? And I'm going to go ahead and just forewarn you, most of this, to me, like reading over it, seems to be just me going off on a big tangent. I don't know, I just kind of, everything's here, and just going to go right ahead. So, I've titled it, Is It Necessary to Say That? And I have Brawlhalla playing in the background because I don't know what else to play. So, the topic I'm tackling today is on people being offensive and people getting offended. A big part of this, to me, is political correctness and understanding how others think and knowing that today's society has standards that are, for the most part, unspoken, but many people are expected to live up to. Now, normally this is a good thing because it keeps people from saying things that would offend someone else. But lately, I feel like this has gotten out of hand. People are taking some of the smallest issues and turning them into something larger. Often what happens is things people say are taken out of context and it's used against them. Or people are so ignorant that they think what they think is right, and anyone else who has an opinion that isn't theirs is wrong. And that raised the question, what is considered offensive? And when is it that people are just overreacting? And this gives us political correctness, which is, I think, is the standard we use against people, but that isn't spoken or written anywhere. So people just have to think, is this going to offend someone? And it's a good thing, like I said before, but it can only be taken so far. And another question today is, has it gotten to the point where people are being too easily offended? Or is it that people are purposely trying to offend people to get attention and start unnecessary conflict? The problem with this question is that it makes people have to avoid things that they want to talk about. It also makes people have to be extremely careful and nitpick speeches and anything that they say. And as soon as they make a small mistake, everyone gets mad and suddenly that person can be hated. So, what is the first thing we need to understand? And like I've said, a lot of this is kind of out of order, so just bear with me here. The first thing we need to understand is, what is being offended? Now, the exact definition, if you look it up, is resentful or annoyed, typically as a result of a perceived insult. So you are annoyed with someone or resentful with that person because of what they said or did. Am I trying to say it's not okay to be offended? No. If someone says something, for example, about race that's very derogatory and rude, by all means say, hey, that's not right. Most of the time it's a matter of conflicting opinions. One guy thinks hamburgers are better than turkey burgers. The other guy who likes turkey burgers gets mad because guy one said something bad about him somehow. This is honestly a rather dumb and extreme example, but stuff like this could happen. However, there are many topics that are considered hot or bad and people say you should avoid. The two big ones are politics and religion. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and say, probably be talking about both of those during this, and if I say anything offensive to you, sorry, but, I'm just going to continue on till the end. So, first out of the subject, sometimes it's a good thing to be offended and take a stand for yourself. As odd as it sounds, this also heavily ties in with the other side of the argument here, but that's for later on. It is good to be offended by some things, because if you just sit back and let it happen, it can spiral out of control. Some people seriously need to watch what they say because they are so offensive. One important thing to remember is don't judge someone until you know what they are going through in life, and if you label someone or call them something without knowing any context, the person's life, it could deeply hurt them. Another extreme example that is considered to, be something, I'm just going to keep going here, but there's going to be a lot of rather extreme examples and some things that may offend people for the sake of what the question is. So, say you make fun of Jews, not saying that's okay at all. You say something bad about them, whatever, and little do you know the person you're talking to is Jewish. Well, they don't say anything, and that really hurt them, but you don't know it hurt them, so you don't know not to do this in the future. Now, this can happen with many other highly debated subjects such as politics, legalization of gay marriage, and religion, like mentioned in the example. It is important to watch what you say because you never know who is listening, and you never know who you might be hurting. Another reason to avoid certain subjects and watch what you say is if you have any supporting facts. Matters that are completely based on opinion, such as gay marriage, are often the ones that people say to avoid. There are not any real facts besides the Supreme Court ruled it was constitutional. Other than that, most of it's a battle of opinions. You could say, well, the Bible says, it's not okay, but say you're arguing with someone who, is a different religion, that's not fact to them. That's just something you've pulled out. And again, not saying either side is right here, I'm just in the middle. So, other than that, the whole thing's just a battle of opinions. If neither side can give facts to support their claim and prove them right, the argument could go on forever. There's no point in bringing it up because in the end, no one's going to come out right or wrong, and for the most part, the entire thing was just a useless argument because somebody just wanted to argue they were right. Not that talking about these topics is wrong, because I myself love a good argument, but it's the way people handle it. You could sit down and have a reasonable conversation, arguing why you believe your point is right, but at the same time listening to the other's points and opinions. But do we do that? Not really. Most of the time it seems we just yell and trade insults, and one of the people in the argument gets mad and storms off. Nothing solved, neither person really listened to the other, and overall it was just a big heated mess. So the solution is just to avoid these topics completely, thinking that nothing good will come out of it, and in the end you're still right in your mind. However, you still need to stand up for yourself if it is a serious matter. Sometimes letting one thing slip by and then not correcting it. So a very extreme case of letting one thing completely ruin you because you were just a bit too offensive is a case of Tila Tequila, who had the amazing idea to put an article on her website titled, "Why I Sympathize with Hitler." So you already know this is going to go downhill quickly, because nothing good comes from supporting Hitler. It is an extreme case, but something like this should never be written. Any normal person with common sense would realize that writing about why Hitler was great wouldn't turn out well. Plenty of people were offended, and it's good they were, because the majority of people agree Hitler wasn't exactly the best guy. Her career was ruined because of this, and it could have been easily avoided. But even in this extreme case, you can see how quote-unquote famous people are lenient towards the side of the majority favor. Now, that's one of the things that happened here. She sided with the minority. If there is a minority, let's hope there's not. But because she went against whatever the majority of people thought, then it kind of shamed her out. And I completely hear him saying that this was something she should never have said or written. And agreeing with the majority can get more people to like you, while agreeing with the minority can make you lose followers, for a lack of a better word, and get you hate. This also ties into the next side in the argument. To the people who agree, people are offended too easily. These people would argue that people should be able to speak their minds and what they really believe instead of having to avoid certain topics so they don't receive vicious hate from people who disagree with them. The other side of the argument has many valid points, arguments, and examples. The one thing is, they're not as much against being offended as a whole as the way people act, like I mentioned earlier. Most people would agree there's nothing wrong with being offended, but rather think that people get offended over things that shouldn't be considered offensive at all. Another problem is that people are crazy to overreact to these things and go completely overboard on most of it. Many people would also agree that most of this is just done for attention, not because people are actually offended by whatever is at hand. This part is where news comes into play. because it is the big news companies that are making articles on all these people saying they were offended because this guy said that and it hurt my feelings and I want people to know I'm upset. It's what makes them money. The people who write these don't care if there'll be real consequences and effects of making a mountain out of a molehill in these situations because it puts money in their pockets. As another extreme example, like all of them before, let's say that 10,000 people get together to protest black mailboxes because they think they're racist. A news company finds out about that, and of course, it's going to make its way onto social medias. Then because of what it is, it spreads over the internet and people think this is a big deal now. But this is not the case. Considering the world has 7 billion people and growing rapidly, 10,000 is an extremely small number. But back to the fact they think people are overreacting, let's take a look at some people who are against gay marriage. That is, those who hilariously overreacted to it. First up, let's talk about Alan Keyes. Alan Keyes, he said by legalizing gay marriage, the government would be breaking divine law, and in doing that, they would give states limitless power. He then continues saying states will turn into communist regimes and there will be mass murder. Now you can't look me in the eye and tell me that guy didn't overreact to the legalization of gay marriage. I'm not saying everyone should be for it, but honestly, is that really going to happen? The argument is there are more people acting like this than people willing to sit down and have a reasonable debate or discussion. And instead they want to overreact and throw tantrums, not listening to the opposing side's argument. This also goes back to publicity, because some people get offended over what seems like the smallest things, but because of what it is, they get on to news companies. Now, another example of people just getting offended over something very small is an ice skating routine. One of the two people performing had an empty gun holster on his costume because the performance was themed James Bond. Well, some users went on Twitter and complained, saying, quote, "I do not like that the male skater is wearing a gun holster," unquote, and quote, "I think U.S. figure skating pair's man is wearing a holster. Not so sure that sends the best message about America," unquote. Now, maybe these people are protesting guns or gun control, but is going online and saying that having a holster sends a bad message about America a little extreme? I really don't think that protesting this will help the cause of gun control at all. Then there are those few people that just don't know who they are. They get offended and then turn around and be offensive towards people being offended, and then there's just this massive cycle of people being offended. Now, as far as my thoughts on it go, I agree with both sides here. I think you should be able to say whatever you like and not have to worry about offending people for the sole reason you have an opinion. And on the flip side, you can't go around parading your opinions and ramming them down others' throats, crushing what other people think, and not caring about the consequences of your actions. So in conclusion, let's just all agree to get along and not go over the top when talking about matters where you have an opinion. Thanks for your time and listening to me ramble on, probably contradicting myself multiple times. And right now, you probably are watching me play Brawlhalla, which is just some dumb internet game that I like, but, let's see here. Maybe I'll put some topics. So, thanks for watching. I'll take questions now. And right now, decide which side of the argument you're on here, because I'm really curious to see what different people think about this. This is more or less just a collage of my thoughts. And I want to see how other people, what they think should be done in this situation and which side they agree with. So, again, thank you for your time, listening to me ramble on for what seems like forever now, probably.